Good morning to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. It is now the 27th of April. I am in Wichita, Kansas after quite a day yesterday. I think we can all agree. Yesterday overperformed from the severe weather perspective. Very devastating tornado activity in Nebraska and Iowa and elsewhere too, even down in Texas. And today we are looking at the possibility, I don't know this for sure, but the possibility of a high risk in parts of Oklahoma. So what I want to do is recap what we accomplished yesterday. We finally got a hail intercept, a couple of them, in Missouri of all places. So I'm going to show you what we accomplished yesterday and what we learned and how our cameras that we were putting out worked, and we did very well with that. And then we're going to talk about the setup for today. All right? So let's take a look back at what we were looking at about this time yesterday. This is from the Storm Prediction Center, just about the time we were getting ready to head out. We were looking at an enhanced risk across a huge area of parts of the Plains states. And CJ, who is assisting me with this, he and I were going to be targeting this area up here roughly. We were thinking maybe Topeka, Kansas City, possibly up to Omaha if we could get there. But generally somewhere in that circle we would go up from Wichita. So that was the plan and the region for where we were going to try to target to get ourselves into position for these embedded supercell storms. Now these were not your classic, at least where we were in Missouri, isolated discrete supercells where they just had that look. They had fired along the dry line, and the dry line was, as we call it, sort of unzipping from north to south. And of course we saw what happened around 1 o'clock Central Time or so as a very dangerous supercell got going and came into Nebraska and was just devastating for quite a long time. So farther south along that dry line as the day progressed, instability did its thing, and the cap, as we say, eroded, and the storms exploded, and we were in position on Interstate 29 coming out of St. Joseph, came up through this way, and we were going to try to cut these storms off somewhere near the Corning area, park on the side of the interstate, and let our cameras capture the hail. We were looking at radar scope, and the radar indicated hail was not too much more than an inch, inch and a quarter, so we weren't really worried about giant hail, which is good. We didn't want to have our first encounter necessarily with humongous hail. Some of the stuff we're doing on the vehicle we've not tested before, because how do you simulate hail outside of the IBHS labs? And they fire theirs horizontally, by the way. This stuff comes out of the sky generally vertically. But that was the plan. Wanting to cut off one of these particular cells here is what we were hoping to do as the whole system sort of moved off to the north and northeast here along Interstate 29. So we did get closer and closer, and finally we were able to get into the hail core. This is what it looks like on radar scope. Now where we were was kind of in between a couple of radar sites, and we're picking up this radar out of Omaha, but I think the one in Kansas City or vicinity, this area kind of lies between them. So we weren't having the best radar data. The radar is looking kind of far away, and so the beam is higher up in the sky, and you get just a slightly different perspective. But these purples in here, that was some pretty big hail, probably over an inch, and that is exactly what happened. These moved over us, and it was quite something to witness in person for sure. So let me go back. Yeah, we're going to get to that next one in just a second. So let me go to my folder here. I got a lot of different videos for you. I want to show you how things progressed, and I'm just going to kind of go through these raw, as it were, instead of an edited whatever. I want to just kind of show you some stuff, some of the highlights that I have picked out. Some of this video is 4K, some of it is 1080. However this renders out when it's all said and done for you on YouTube and elsewhere, we shall see. But we did capture some really high quality stuff. So let's look at the first clip here, and I can kind of show you, hold on, I want to find the one where here we go. Where we first set up everything, it's actually this one, with these sort of window protectors, temporary, I will say, and I do know I need to kill the volume on this. So we just turned on the camera that is mounted on, it's kind of like a C-clamp, the brush guard of our Tacoma. And as you can see, we've got the, let me get the telestrator back. There we go. We've got this nice, huge hail guard up here that was custom made for us from Edwards Incorporated in Wilmington, North Carolina. This is our roof cam. It's a live cam from Logitech that we use to look backwards down the guard so we can see what's going on when we eventually put experiments up here. And then the GoPro that we're looking at the view from is mounted on the brush guard, and it can look back towards where we are. There's my bag of combos. That's funny. Got to eat better than that on the road, right? Absolutely. So here we just got everything running. So let's just scroll through the timeline a little bit. And there's CJ and I putting up these Lexan acrylic, whatever they are, panels to help mitigate big hail banging into the windows on the side. Because hail doesn't always fall straight down, unfortunately. It could come in at an angle, especially if it's ever wind-driven. And this was just more of a test. How will these work? We've got these eye bolts up here on all sides. We have 8 of them because we have 4 sets of panels. Each of them have 2 carabiners in there. And we worked in just a couple of minutes' time to get these on, as you can see. And then we are off to be able to drive. And they flap and flop in the wind a little bit. They do have these little pads on the bottom so that they don't bang into the vehicle and damage it. And we were able to get on and do what we want to do. So here we are driving along trying to catch up to that supercell and see what it does. So let's just see what happens here. We're going along. And again, it's pretty cool. You can kind of see how the wind will catch them. The carabiners do a good job holding on. Not the most practical, and we're going to revisit how to do this better going forward. But again, this is just the second day of what I intend to be a multi-year project to study hail. And speaking of hail, we did get into it, and let's just watch what happens. Again, this was not very large, an inch, inch and a quarter, but I'm not going to fib. I was very excited. The kid in me, the little scientist that lives inside of me, right? Like, I was so thrilled to see this. I know that people out in the Midwest think, oh, come on, man, that's nothing. Hey, I get it. But for a hurricane guy like me, this is something. And it's really neat to be able to see it from this perspective. And we're going to be able to do this today. We got a lot more cameras to put out. And we're going to run some of them in 240 frames per second so that we can see it in slow motion. And we can get some close-ups of some stuff and just really understand how hail does what it does. So that is the perspective from the GoPro there. Let me show you what it looked like from the front-facing camera. We put another camera on the hood of the Tacoma, and we can just kind of go back here. I'll show you what the storms looked like as we moved along. Great perspectives. There's yours truly. There's those storms. There's the hail core right over there. Again, let me get my telestrator. Easier to point stuff out. There's the hail core, at least one of them. And these storms are moving pretty fast, 30, 40, in some cases 50 miles per hour. So here we go. We get on the road eventually. These videos, I think they're about, let me go back, 11 minutes each. So let's skip to the next one. We're on the road. We're on 29 here, trying to get into position. You can see this is cool because you get to see a little bit of sort of simulated time lapse just by me scrolling and scrubbing through. And we're making little adjustments we can pull off. We got time. But that's the hail core. That's the one that we want right there. There's another one as those storms are moving across. And that's the idea, is to get in front of these and let them come over us. I don't want to drive into hail, especially large hail, if we can ever avoid it. And I think we should always avoid it. So here we are, getting ready, and the hail finally does come. And we had to inch up the road using the shoulder from time to time. Very careful. Now look, this is, I mean, what are you going to do? People want to take shelter there under the overpass. Not the best idea. You know, we got to figure out something, maybe more awareness. Oh, let's stop and let the storms pass by. Maybe pull off at an exit. That's a story for another day. How do we make people aware? You know, let me just come on for a second. I was remarking about this to CJ because we saw lots of people just driving into the hail. I'm like, did they just not know? And he made a very good point. and I don't mean to be trivial about it, but like not everybody is a weather weenie like us or like you that are watching. There are a lot of people that are completely oblivious to the weather. And that's very alien to people like us, right? Absolutely. Yet there they are, they pulled off, hey, look, I get it. They're trying to protect their vehicle. They don't know how big the hail might be. They may hear a severe thunderstorm warning come across their radio, or they see it on their smartphone. But not everybody's going around with radar scope, unfortunately, and the knowledge of what hail can do. Nevertheless, we continue on, we pull off, and the hail eventually comes. You'll see it here. We got a big fat raindrop in the way, but it moved out just in time, and I'll let this roll for a second. So there's the hail, and this really gives you a good perspective of how much there was, and you can see it bouncing around. Some of them a little bit over an inch. We did get out and measure a little bit later on. We found some on the ground. Of course, they had melted, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but these are about an inch, maybe an inch and a half at the largest. So not particularly damaging, obviously. They could put some dents on you, little tiny dents in your car, depending on what it's made out of. But a very interesting perspective there from the first encounter that we had with hail. Now, as we go along, I want to show you what happens next here. This was really amazing. Let me go back to the browser. So we encountered what we wanted to do, and this one was coming. I think that's the one. There might have been one farther south. But we went on up the interstate and flipped around to come back south because of this. We wanted to intercept this guy right here. And there's Interstate 29, so we thought we had time to catch it somewhere near Mound City or Craig. And it's interesting because it had a tornado warning, but the tornado warning stopped at the Missouri River, which I thought was weird. And it was not a particularly, it's not that classic a look for a tornado on radar, but visually CJ really picked up on it, that it looked like it was tightening up here on the back side. So we had to be careful of that, and we were approaching it, of course, from the northwest as it's going to come across, and we wanted to get into that hail core and get a second intercept. All right? So we did that. We got up under it, and that's what it looked like. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. Let's, as they say, go back to the video, and I'm going to show you what it looked like from... Oh, I forgot something. Hold on. I'm sorry. Let me show you the roof cam from the first intercept. It's too much going on. This is pretty cool. I do know that it's about 26 minutes in that we do get the hail up there. So here's the hail from the roof cam. Again, not bad. The holes that are in the aluminum are a ½ inch. So any hailstone that goes through those holes is less than a ½ inch. Isn't that it's kind of cool? Anything bigger stays on top. And again, let me get my telestrator back. We've got this nice little low spot up here. It's kind of a tray, if you will. It's indented by about 2 inches. And we're going to be able to put one of our quick dams up here. And we use quick dams for flooding, right? Well, we're going to use them to help capture hail because they're soft. Once they're activated, they're like a mushy pillow. And the big hailstones will just kind of stick to them. And we can really collect some good stuff there without the hail getting messed up. And when it's safe to get out, we can jump up there, grab the stone with our gloves, and measure one of those big ones that are 2 inches or larger. But yeah, there's what it looked like from the roof cam. Again, nothing crazy. I get it, but to me, it was just really neat to see this and to see that the camera system generally worked. All right, now let's keep on going. We wanted to go get that other supercell, and they were small. They were very small supercells, but supercells nonetheless. So here's the beauty of the brush guard cam. It's a GoPro. This is shooting in 1080. Actually, this is on the hood. Sorry, this is our hood cam. And it's so neat to just kind of scroll through. You really get an idea of the motion of the atmosphere, and you get the spray and the rainbows. And then all of a sudden, and this is where it was just absolutely fascinating, this massive, unbelievably vivid, I have never seen anything like this. Let me cut the audio all the way down. That rainbow, nice lightning strike there. that rainbow, look, I know people are going to be like, dude, rainbows, really? You have to understand, this was a hail core rainbow. And I want to pause this just for a second. Drop me out. Come on, drop me out. I want to point out a couple things. So there's the hail core right there. That's the curtain, the hail core. It's whitish, and you got about 1 inch hail, maybe larger. The video is great, but in real life, the vividness, especially of the purple and the blue here, this part of the spectrum, was the most vivid that I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not joking. It was like, it's more than just, hey, look at that pretty rainbow. There was something about it because the sun is coming through the hail core. I think that we have sort of found something interesting here. And I know that this gentleman with NSSL, Sean Waugh, hopefully that's how you say his name, W-A-U-G-H, is heading up a project to use powerful lights to shine into hail. And he calls it the volume, I think. I got to get in touch with this guy and get more info on it. But let me show you what happens and why I think that we might be onto something. And he is too with his team at NSSL. As we get closer, look at the curtain go through. And that is all hail. So we get into it, and let me see if I can freeze frame this at just the right moment. You can see it bouncing. All right, so I know this isn't the greatest example, but I went through and looked at this video and spent about 30 minutes on it. Each one of these is a hailstone in midair. And I know, again, it's not that big of a deal, but to me, it's really interesting because what Sean's going to do will shine a magnificent set of lights. And I want to send this to him and say, hey, look. And I know he knows, but I think it's going to work. Because this is what the sunlight did, and this was just by chance that we ran across this. Let me go to the next one because there's another segment in here as we were going along where you can really, really see the hail falling through the sunlight there. Look at that rainbow. Oh, yeah, this is when we catch up to this one truck here. There it is. All right. So in the sky, let me see if we can get a good frame. There was a couple of them. Oh, that was neat because you could actually see the streak. And the hail actually had a spectrum on it, almost like ice crystals, which they are ice. But anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on this. We got to move forward. But we saw something that I wasn't expecting. And in science, that is really important. And I hope the resolution works out. Each one of these little dots up here, and there are thousands and thousands of them, those are hailstones coming down. And when we were there in person, you could look up and see it and just see them coming down. It made you feel like you were in three-dimensional space. And I know we are, but rather than just driving like that perspective, like a video game, you get driving and it's just the same old, right? And you can look up and see them coming down, and you really got an idea of what a hail core looks like, the way that it was illuminated. So I think that's really interesting, and I think that what Sean is going to do with NSSL is going to be spectacular. All right, so let's move along. Maybe if this will let me. Let's move along and see what goes on next. What goes on is that storm started to tighten up, and we did get out. This is the picture that I wanted to show you over here. CJ took a picture of that, the mesocyclone moving right up. We're looking straight up there. And that thing was curling, and we were like, all right, it looks like it's tightening up. We got into the rear flank downdraft. You could really feel it tightening up. So off we go. We wanted to catch this thing as it moved over us. And you can see it right there. That's the makings. This is the bottom of the wall cloud, if you will, and the mesocyclone's up here. Very small supercell, not one of those giant ones like what was up in Iowa and Nebraska, thank goodness, but a supercell nonetheless. By the way, there's me trying to measure the hail while CJ's taking pictures. And we go back to the browser. I think I got a picture of it. 1.043 inches. And look, don't be laughing at me. Come on, we got to start somewhere. And there were bigger ones probably, and these had been there for minutes. So they were bigger than that, obviously. All right? Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So let me show you what we did. There's us measuring and being little weather geeks. And off we go. We wanted to catch up with that storm. So we jump off the interstate, head down into this little town, and get out into the countryside. And lo and behold, this is pretty cool to be able to just zip through here. If only you could drive this fast. Look at that, the hills and everything. This was beautiful. CJ's navigating. The storm is off to our left, and we drove through more hail. These were little hailstones, so I didn't worry about it too much. And we get off to the races. Up and down these hills we go. And I'm not used to this in flat North Carolina and hurricane country. Look at those hailstones. You can see some of those in the air. That's pretty cool. And off in the distance, you can see it. Can you see it? There it is. Let me get the right frame here. It was off through the trees. A tornado was on the ground, and we were able to see that. There it is right through there. I'm just going to highlight it where to look. The darn rain shaft and the hail made it really difficult to see. But there it was. You can see it on the ground right there, especially. Freeze it. That's it. That's the tornado on the ground. It was reported on the ground by fire and EMS as well. And then we ran into a volunteer fireman when we were all done with everything, and he said he saw some of the damage through the trees, into the trees, maybe EF0, EF1. Beautiful little supercell there. You can see it lifted back up. We continued on and on and on, and tried to keep up with it. That's a good perspective right there. There it is. It had already come back up. Maybe a little bit of something on the ground underneath, not sure. But that's it. That's a small supercell. And we got a little, tornado action out of it, which was also unexpected. But we did learn, hey, look, some of these are going to produce tornadoes, and we just need to be cognizant of that, aware of it, and so forth and so on. So we get on out there. There's the storm. It dies away. And we took a nice picture of the Tacoma after a successful day. There's a little hill. I climbed up there and got a good little perspective of the truck. Everything worked great. So we want to mount more stuff up here today. More cameras on some of these bars. We got these clamps that we can use. Should have showed you one in person, but maybe next time. But we can really, really start focusing on how hail does what it does. Now that we know that the stuff works, we know that our hail guard is firm, and we know how to drive with it on, etc. And by the way, there's the camera that's on the hood. There's this little clip that you put down from 3M. GoPro sells them. You slide the camera in, it locks into place. And we were driving 70, 75 miles per hour with trucks passing us, and those things don't come off. People that know GoPros, they know. You know the expression, if you know, you know. So, very successful day yesterday, and now we're ready for this today. And there's some chat out there, that chat or whatever, that some areas in here may go high risk. We shall see. The big threat today is the possibility of violent, long-track tornadoes. The tornado threat is significant, and we're talking a pretty large area too, and through some metro areas. A dangerous day ahead, big-time wind, and then the hail threat, very substantial, more so than yesterday. And this extends into southeast Kansas through a good chunk of Oklahoma, and even down towards Wichita Falls. So obviously our area, we're up in Wichita, we're going to get down into the heart of the moderate, and we're going to do so soon, with the expectation that we see much larger hail today. But the tornado threat is also going to be bigger today, and so we're going to have to really be aware of that. That's why I have a partner to help out with this. I don't do this by myself. So to wrap things up, long video I know, but I wanted to go over everything with you, show you what we've been doing. We're in Wichita. We'll leave here within the hour or so, and then get down into Oklahoma, and then just somewhere in this corridor, we will figure out what to do, where to go, maybe between OKC and Lawton. I don't know. We got to figure it all out. It's early. We will figure it out. And as long as we do have connectivity, the terrestrial network, we will stream live as much as we can on our YouTube channel and see what we see today. And hopefully I'll have a really amazing report for you tomorrow. All right? So let me drop me out of the picture, get back to the title page, so to speak, and say my goodbyes. So huge thanks to all the people that have helped to support this. I know that we are HurricaneTrack, the brand, but I am a geographer by degree. I study weather and climate and impacts of such, and I document stuff. And I like to observe my world, especially the world of weather. And hail, I felt, was a very important aspect of severe weather that was not getting enough attention, especially outside of where it is happening. The people that live out here, they generally know about it. But more and more people are moving into these areas. A lot of people moving to Texas, a lot of people moving to Colorado, and more people should move to Kansas, in my opinion, because it is a beautiful, very clean, very personable, hospitable state. I've always thought that as I've come through Kansas, going back 20 years now, and I just felt like, yeah, let's shine a light, literally. Well, Sean's going to do that on hail and what it does, because hail does more damage in any given year than all the tornadoes combined. Even what we saw yesterday with that devastating damage in Nebraska and elsewhere, when it's all said and done, hail will be tens of billions of dollars of damage, and we are paying for that even if you live in Maine or San Diego, California. Why am I paying for it? Your insurance premiums. It affects everybody. So the more we learn about it, the more awareness there is, the better. That's why we're doing this. And we're just getting started. So thanks for following along. And the positives, 99% positive. There's a few people that aren't on board, and that's okay. You're not going to please everybody. But we're going to do it. We're going to keep moving forward and see what we can learn. And maybe we discover something along the way. That's some of the most fun part about science. All right, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack. That's our brand. And yeah, hurricane season's coming fast, and we will be ready for that. Don't worry. And by the way, we'll have the big hurricane outlook and discussion off-season version, because we're almost to the on-season on Monday. So that's coming up too. All right, have a good Saturday. Be safe out there if you're in the path of all this stuff. And you know where to find us on social. We look forward to seeing you later. Again, from all of us at HurricaneTrack, I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll see you next time from out on the road later today.